Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome MDRT Secretary and 26-year MDRT member, Mark Hanna.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Before we begin, I'd like to ask you to please silence your phones and disable any alarms as a courtesy to our speaker. And please remember that the taking of photographs and recording is not permitted under MDRT guidelines. Also, please note the exit doors in the event of emergency. If you wish to leave the session, please use these doors if for any reason you are called to leave. As you heard this morning, referrals are extremely important to our business. Bill Cates is back and will dig deeper into getting these referrals without having to push or beg for them. You will learn in this session how to identify and remove obstacles for being more proactive for referrals and to keep those referrals flowing from your clients. Please welcome back to our stage, Mr. Bill Cates.
Wow. I get to focus on one side of the room this time, right? I don't have to do this. Now, how many of you, when you saw the agenda for MDRT experience, you thought, how did they get Bill Gates? I know. One letter, right? He's worth $55 billion. I'm worth a little less. So, thank you. So the translators told me I was a little too fast this morning. So I'm going to slow down and we'll have enough to, no. So when I graduated from university, I was 22 years old. I had a degree in sociology. I was shy. I lacked confidence. So I took a job in sales. And my first job was selling home improvement services. Roofing and window replacement, and not a very sophisticated situation, certainly not as important as what you folks do. And so I'm 22. My sales manager, Larry, was 23, 1 year older than me. And so my training was to ride with him for about a month, about 4 weeks, and I would watch him, observe him, make the sales. And then we switched, and I would start to try to make the sale, and he would observe me. And so I'll never forget my first sale, very nice home outside of Washington, D.C., near where I'm from. And I walked out to the car, and I had driven that evening, so I was getting ready to start the car. And Larry put his hand on mine and wouldn't let me start the car. I said, "What's up, Larry? You want a debrief or something?" "Actually, Bill, you forgot the most important thing. I got the contract at signed. I got the check at signed. What did I forget? You forgot to ask for referrals." "Oh, I know about referrals, and you're really good. Tell you what, I'll call the homeowners tomorrow and see if I can get some referrals over the phone." "Actually, Bill, I was thinking it'd be a good training exercise for you to get out of the car now and go back in and ask for referrals." I'm thinking, this guy's nuts. He wants me to go back in and ask for referrals? All right. So we got into an argument. My 5th week on the job. All right. I'm arguing with my boss. Is now a good time or not a good time to go back in? In the meantime, the downstairs light went off. The upstairs light went on. They're getting ready for bed. Right. Finally, Larry says to me, "Bill, if you don't go in there now and ask for referrals, I'm going to honk the horn. It's going to wake up the neighborhood. You're probably going to lose the sale, and tomorrow you could be looking for a new job." Whoa. So I got out of the car and I rang the doorbell. "Sir, I'm sorry to bother you, but my sales manager, he's a maniac. He says if I don't ask you for referrals, I could lose my job." Now what saved me in this predicament is this gentleman was a sales manager. So not only did he appreciate me asking for referrals, he appreciated the courage it took to go back in and ask for referrals. He said, "Come on, I'll help you out." Sat me down, gave me 3 great referrals, names, phone numbers, information, He says, Bill, don't call these people tomorrow morning. Wait till tomorrow afternoon, because I'm going to call them for you, right? Let them know who you are, and then you can call. 3 great names, 3 great referrals for a new job, and I took it. Because we did not approve of that aggressive behavior, right? Very aggressive from that sales manager. But he gave me a gift. He gave me the gift of awareness. After going through that experience, do you think I ever forget about referrals? Never, right? Now, sometimes I decide now's not the right time, which is fine. Sometimes it's not the right time. Sometimes we have an expression in the United States, wimp. Do you know the term wimp? Chicken, wimp out, right? I lack the courage. Sometimes I lack the courage, but I never forget. And what I want to do for you in a kinder, gentler way than my sales manager, Larry, is make sure you always have that awareness, that you always know what's possible in front of you. Sometimes you will decide now's not the right time. Sometimes you will decide, to wait. Sometimes you'll do it. Sometimes you'll lack the courage, but you'll never forget, all right? We're going to take that one off. So there were handouts produced for this workshop. I assume they were given out. They're still giving them out at the door, so you can take notes on the handout if you want. Doesn't matter. So I said this a little bit this morning. To get more referrals, you have to be more referable, right? You have to have a great process. You have to stay in touch with people in a way that continues to bring value. And you have to be proactive. And that's what we're going to talk about mostly here today. Now, there's an expression, you've probably heard this expression, that they use a lot at MDRT and in the industry in general. 3 words that will probably produce more success for you, more business, more referrals, than any other words I can give you. And some of you have heard these words. Are you ready? Work your book. Raise your hand if you've heard that expression, work your book. A few of you. All right? What does that mean? It means stay in touch with your clients as their needs change, as they grow, as they make more money, whatever happens. You're in touch with them. They don't have to tell their story to someone new. You already know their story, don't you? And so you already have their trust. Who is it easier to sell something to? Someone new or someone you already have sold something to? Someone you've already sold to, right? And Colleen Francis was talking about that yesterday afternoon. That second sale is more profitable than the first sale. Why? Because it costs less time and sometimes less money to get in front of that person. So we work our book. We stay in touch with our clients. We keep bringing value. We build those business friendships. And then we are proactive. So let's talk about being proactive. Now, I ended up the session this morning talking about promoting referrals. All right? I said, don't keep me a secret. Many of you have heard this. Many of you have put this on your email signature file, especially if you work where you speak English with your clients. I'm sure there's a translation in every country. Simple little thing goes into their subconscious, and then later they're talking to friends or family or colleagues, and they're talking about some financial matters perhaps, and they think of you, and then it turns into a referral. Now sometimes, many times, I have seen don't keep me a secret turn into referrals right away, right on the spot. Let me tell you about Larry DeNoia. Larry DeNoia is a financial professional in New York, and he had a client in his office on a Friday morning. He said to the client, I'm still taking on new clients. I'd appreciate if you don't keep me a secret. And she said, okay, we'll keep you in mind. 6:30 that evening, his telephone rings. It's the sister of the client. Mr. DeNoia, I'd like to meet with you as quickly as possible. How soon can we meet? They set up a meeting for 10 o'clock on Monday morning, and at that meeting, she becomes a client and invested $1 million with Larry. He told me that it was the fastest turnaround from prospect to client he's ever had, from a Friday evening to a Monday morning. He says it pays to say, don't keep me a secret, and to work a little late on Fridays. Let me tell you about Mark Williams in Dallas, Texas. Mark had a client in his office, said, please don't keep me a secret. He thought of his mother, who had just sold her home, and she had a lot of cash, and she wanted help with investing that cash. $800,000. So he starts to work with her, helping her with the $800,000, discovered she had $4 million with the bank. That money got transferred over as well. Mark Williams got a $4.8 million client just by saying, "Don't keep me a secret," to the son. So I don't know about you, but if I were you, I'd try this a little bit. Now, it's not going to hurt the relationship. If you say, "Don't keep me a secret," are they going to say, "Oh, I can't believe you said that. I'm moving my money. Give me my check back"? No, of course not. They'll say, "Sure, we'll keep you in mind." Right? So that's one simple way to be proactive. Now, it's not asking for referrals, but it's promoting, it's foreshadowing, right? Here's a simple thing you can say: never too busy to see if I can be a resource to your friends, to your family, to your colleagues, right? Now let me focus on a couple words here. First of all, the words "to see." Some of you are very new in this business, and if they fog a mirror, if they're breathing, you will talk to them, right? And that's fine, because you need to get used to telling your story and asking your questions, and you need to pay the rent, right? So that's fine. Some of you have been doing this for a while, right? And you're trying to kind of move up the economic ladder of who you're trying to reach, right? And so not everyone fits your business. And so we're always qualifying, right? Never too busy to see if I can be a resource, to see if I can help. Maybe they fit your business model, maybe they don't, right? Never too busy to see. Now the word resource, great word. It's proactive, but non-threatening. It's soft, but proactive at the same time. Now, if you're calling on wealthy individuals, high net worth individuals, we know that wealthy individuals and high net worth individuals quite often use more than one financial professional. True? Right. So present yourself as an additional resource. Right? Never too busy to see if I can be an additional resource. When you're calling people on the phone, I would like to present myself as an additional resource. And that way you're not threatening any relationships they already have in place. You're just adding to the relationships. So this is a simple one, easy, right? I said earlier this morning, giving referrals is one way to get referrals. So one thing you want to do is look for opportunities to give. Now, do some of your clients small business owners or other types of professionals that also need customers or clients for their business? Sure. So say to them, if I ran into a good prospect for your business, how would I know it? And how would you like me to introduce you to them? Right? A genuine willingness to give referrals. Demonstrate your willingness to give referrals. Now, sometimes you might know someone you can refer to them, sometimes you don't, but just the gesture, just the willingness to give referrals will sometimes create referrals for you, especially with small business owners, because they understand the referral process, don't they? By the way, small business owners, a very good target market for you, because those people understand sales, they understand marketing, they understand referrals, and they're often very busy, and so once you can pin them down, once you can have a conversation with them, then they make very quick decisions, usually small business owners. Most do, right? So a genuine willingness to give referrals, very important. On your outgoing voice message, right? When someone calls you, you're at a conference now, they get your voice message, right? Please leave a message at the tone, and if you were referred to us, please let us know who we need to thank. Think about that. Someone calls you, you're not there, and they get your outgoing voice message, and you say, please leave if you were referred to us, please let us know who we can thank. Now they know you work from referrals, right? It's part of how you do business. And you celebrate referrals, don't you? You say thank you for referrals. So it's a very easy, simple thing. This is something you could do at the break, right? Just change your outgoing voice message, and you plant the seed for referrals. Now, earlier this morning, I talked to you about, me being a single guy and prospecting for dates and all that, right? I have an idea, and I want to get your opinion. Right? We have a lot of men, a lot of women. I can get a good balanced opinion here, right? So here's what I was thinking. I go out on a date, take a lady to a nice dinner or to a show, and we come back to her home, and I'm dropping her off at the front door, and I say, did you have a nice evening? That's the value discussion, Did you have a nice evening? And she says, oh, I had a lovely evening. Great. Please don't keep me a secret. What do you think? Good? Yes? No, you know what I'm seeing right now? The women are going, no, don't do that. And the men are going, yeah, give it a try, see what happens. On your email signature file. Now, I know some of you have already come up to me and told me that you have don't keep me a secret on your signature file. Well, you can do other things on your signature file, right? You can say accepting new clients by referral only, or accepting new clients by referrals, or don't keep me a secret, or never too busy to be a resource. Or maybe you've heard this one, the greatest compliment a client can give to me is the introduction to someone else they care about. Let me say that again. The greatest compliment a client can give to me is an introduction to someone else they care about. Right? Now, if you put it on your signature file, what you might want to do is rotate them. So maybe for a month or 2 or 3, you have don't keep me a secret. And then you change it to never too busy to be a resource for other people you care about. Let that run for 1, 2, 3 months. And then you change it so they don't get used to it, right? So it stands out a little bit. Something new that I've seen people do, that I'm starting to do myself in my own email, is if you know someone you can introduce me to, please click here. Let me say that again. It's very simple, very easy. You know how to do this. If you know someone you'd like to introduce me to, or someone you think I can help, you can change the words a little bit, please click here. And it's a hyperlink that opens up an email to me. Right? It's a hyperlink. It opens up an email to me, so what do? They send me email, say, oh yes, I'd like to introduce you to my friend George. I'd like to introduce you to my colleague Mary. Right? So it's a very simple thing you can put right in your signature file, and you get that referral process started. Right? A lot of ways to plant the seeds to promote referrals. Right? Before I go to that one, I want to tell you about a guy named Russ Sanders. Russ Sanders went through one of my sessions just like this. He put don't keep me a secret on his signature file. The very next day, he got an email from a client who saw that, and it triggered a referral. And the email said, you know, I saw that you were taking on new clients, and so I told a friend about you, and he's very eager to hear from you. Here's his contact information. Called him up. Now that he's one of his biggest clients, just from don't keep me a secret in the signature file. Now, I'm not saying that's going to do that every time, but what do we need to do? We need to engage more in this process, right? Referrals can no longer be an afterthought. Referrals can no longer be nice when it happens. Referrals need to be the way, or at least a big part. Now, if you're brand new in this business, you may need to do some other things for a while. It's hard to be 100% referrals right away, but you certainly can get to that place. And I told you earlier that referrals create more referrals, right? When you meet someone through a referral, they're more likely to give you referrals. It makes sense, doesn't it? If they've been referred to you, right? They're more likely to do it. And what happens is the more people you bring into your book of business through a referral, the more people you have likely to give referrals. And it creates momentum, and it creates a life of its own. And then you get more referrals without asking, and if you do ask, you have people more receptive. Why? Because that's how they met you, right? One of the things that a lot of people like to do is keep track of the generations of referrals that can occur in one's business, right? So a client gives you a referral to their brother or sister, right? That would be the first generation referral. Then that brother or sister gives you a referral to 2 of their friends, second generation referral. Those friends give you referrals to some friends, family members, colleagues, third generation referrals. Keep track of those generations of referrals. I was working with a financial professional in California, a gentleman by the name of Joe Winslow. He's been in the business for about 15 years. He works exclusively from referrals and introductions, exclusively, nothing else, no leads, no seminars, nothing, just referrals and introductions. And he's done that because that's how he built that culture of doing business that way. And he said he has several clients, he can track 10 generations of referrals. 10 generations of referrals. All those people are related, not by blood, but by the referral process. Andre Duffy is a financial professional. About a year ago, he had a little client appreciation event. Right? He brought some of his clients together to say thank you. 25 clients, all of them came to him through referrals, through the same family tree of referrals. So everyone there at the event saw how they helped or were helped by people they didn't even know. Joe will go back to some of his clients and without revealing the names of clients, because that's private information, he will let them know how many people that person has helped by virtue of giving referrals. Now, you hear me use the word referrals, you hear me use the word introductions, right? What we really need these days is introductions. We need to get connected. So near the end, I'll talk to you about how to do that. So I'll be using the words kind of interchangeably, referrals or introductions, but what we really want is that connection, that introduction, all right? So I got some questions. People sent some questions in. You remember the email address I put up there? And so I want to answer some of the questions as we go. And the question was, is there a difference between promoting referrals and asking for referrals? And when do we promote referrals and not ask, right? What's the timing on some of this? That's a good question. Well, certainly, yes, there is a difference between promoting, saying, don't keep me a secret, never too busy. And a lot of people stop there, right? They let their clients know we're open for business. It's okay to talk about us, but they don't go the next step. But when do you say, don't keep me a secret? When do you say, never too busy to be a resource for other people you care about? Well, one place to do that is when you hear your prospect or your client recognize your value, right? You've heard clients say things like, thanks for explaining to me how that worked, right? You've had clients say, how come my last agent or advisor didn't tell me that? You've had clients say things like, I'm trying to think of, thank you for setting the, you ever had a client thank you for setting up the meeting with them, right? I finally am taking the time to do something I know I need to do. You've provided value just by setting the appointment, right? These are value recognizing statements. Anybody ever get a hug from a client? Right? Yeah, you're very referable, you're very huggable. Right? That's a value recognizing statement. Here is the ultimate value recognizing statement. Someone writes a check and the check clears. Right? So that's one place when someone says, wow, it's great working with you. Great, I'm glad I got a happy client. Please don't keep me a secret out there. Or please don't keep the important work I do for others a secret. Or someone says, this is a great process. I'm really glad I went through this process. Great, I'm never too busy to see if I can be a resource for other people you care about. So whenever you hear something positive, that's your trigger. At least promote referrals, right? So from now on, the rest of your career, right? Every time you hear a client say something good about you and about the work you do, that could be a time to promote referrals. I'm not saying you do it every time. You don't want to be obnoxious about this, but that could be a time. So start to tune your awareness in, all right? So that's a good question. So every time we finish a little section, I want to give you some action steps, right? Before I give you the first one, let me ask you a question. Is knowledge power? What do you think? Is knowledge power? I respectfully disagree. Don't get me wrong, I think knowledge is very important. I'm kind of in the knowledge business, right? I write books, I teach, right? But knowledge is useless unless what? Unless you take action, unless you apply it, right? This whole meeting is worthless unless you take the ideas and apply it. And the difference between successful people and less successful people is the successful people take the action. They actually do the things, right? So are you promoting referrals? In what ways are you promoting referrals? And what are you going to start doing when the conference is over? So this is a very large group. We must have 2,000 people at least here in the room. but they call it a workshop. So we're going to work a little. Is that okay? Right? I want you to cement this in your thinking. I want you to make sure you don't forget these strategies. And one of the ways to do that is to talk it out with someone else. All right? So I'm going to give you about 2 minutes, really short. Turn to your right or left, turn to a colleague, turn to someone, and this whole idea of promoting referrals, don't keep me secret, never too busy, just that whole concept. What did you get? What are you going to start doing as a result of that one little section? All right? Go. 2 minutes. Okay, time. Face forward. Raise your hand if you have an idea, something you're going to do differently. We have some hands. Don't be shy. It's okay. All right, good. Let's take some action here. All right. Another question came in. Is there, oh, we already had that one. I'm going the wrong way. There you go. Ah, okay. So let's get into asking for referrals, right? I mentioned this morning, some people say you should never ask for referrals. Really? Do you believe in the work you do? Do people put off doing the work that you do? Do people put off buying insurance to protect their families, their loved ones, their businesses? Yeah. And what was the gentleman, Sanjay, right, was talking about how he wished he had sold his friend. He didn't let his friend delay the decision, right? The work you do is very important. And so it's incumbent upon you to offer that opportunity to serve other people. Not because you get paid, because you believe in the work you do, right? So for me, that's where asking for referrals comes from, that place of belief in that we do good work for people, right? It's got to come from that place. It's got to be sincere, because your clients can tell the difference if you're being sincere around that. Now, we want to do it in a way that isn't pushing or begging. So, most people don't ask for referrals, right? They have a barrier to it. And I've been teaching my system for almost 20 years to financial professionals all over the world. And it's pretty much the same thing everywhere I go. Why people don't ask for referrals, it's usually a sign of some kind of fear, right? If you don't feel confident with something, if you don't feel confident, what do you feel? Fear, doubt, uncertainty, and then inaction, right? So let's examine some of the fears, some of the doubts that people have around asking for referrals, right? Sometimes people are afraid they haven't, or concerned they haven't provided value yet, right? You see that a lot from newer agents and newer advisors, right? You don't know what the value is, so you're not sure if it's time to be proactive. Now, I already told you, some of you have had clients or prospects thank you just for setting the appointment. They already see the value. You've already provided value to them. Even if someone doesn't buy from you, have you put them through a process that's helped them, that's educated them, that's made them realize certain things about their financial life or financial future? Yeah, right? So the key is having a process that allows you to determine that value has indeed been delivered. So you can feel comfortable about that. Some people are afraid of hurting the relationship, right? You don't want to come across pushy. You don't want to hurt the relationship. And I agree, we don't want to hurt the relationship. We don't want to come across pushy. So again, the key is finding a process, a way to be proactive without being pushy, right? Fear you'll look needy, unprofessional, unsuccessful. We have an expression, hat in hand, right? You don't want to look like that, do you? Right? Especially when you're working with very successful people. So, again, the key is to have a process that doesn't look needy, that doesn't look unprofessional, right? It's all in having the right process. Fear of rejection, right? Now, you already know if you're afraid of rejection, you're in the wrong business, right? But I've seen some people's fear of rejection shows up in different places, right? I know some people can cold call or call leads, but they don't mind being rejected by those people because they don't have a relationship with them. But once you start a little bit of relationship with someone and they don't want to give you referrals, then you make it mean too much, and so you don't want to go there, right? Now let me share with you my philosophy around rejection and how to deal better with rejection. Some folks, some sales trainers, experts in sales, will tell you they're not rejecting you, they're rejecting your offer. They're not rejecting you, they just haven't seen the value. You haven't made a good case for the value. And sometimes that's true. And you know what I've learned? Sometimes they're rejecting us, right? We're not going to get along with everybody. Our personalities don't match with everybody. The key is to not take rejection personally, right? It doesn't mean anything. No, all that no means is no, right? So here are 2 words that I will give to you that you can use if you like them to deal with rejection in this business. I love what Michael Hoffman was talking about. They never told you about all the rejection that was going to occur. Right? 2 words. Are you ready? When someone rejects you, your offer, whatever it is, ouch, next. You with me? Ouch, next. It never feels to it never feels good to get rejected, right? We never totally get used to being rejected, but we just don't stay there. We just move on, right? Next. Now, fear of rejection around referrals. I want to do a little survey in the room here. We'll have some fun holding up hands and see what happens. The cameras can be ready. So please, if you've ever asked for referrals and got them when you asked, right? You asked the client and they gave you referrals, raise your hand. Anybody ever experienced that? Asking and getting. Please, that's a lot of hands, okay? So maybe 50%, 60% of the room have asked and gotten on the spot. Raise your hand if you've ever asked for referrals, you didn't get them when you asked, but that same client gave you referrals later when they were ready on their own terms. Anybody experience that? Look, even more hands, 80%, 90% of the room. Have you ever had someone fire you because you asked for referrals? No. Well, he's pointing to his friend. That doesn't count. Let's lighten up on this, right? Some people will give us referrals. In fact, I can tell you exactly what will happen every single time you ask referrals. You ready? I can predict your future. Right? Have you heard of Nostradamus predicts the future? Bill Nostradamus Cates. Every single time you ask referrals, if you do it in the right way, in the way I'm about to give you, sometimes you'll get referrals when you ask. Sometimes those people will do it later when they're ready. Some people will never give you referrals. You have some clients, you could run into a burning building and save their children, they wouldn't give you referrals. But they're not going to stop being your client. It's not going to hurt the relationship, right? You just back off, and maybe later, right? I've had clients tell me, I don't give referrals. I don't do this. Don't ask me again. Okay, I don't ask them again. 2, 3, 4 years later, Bill, I told you I don't do this, but I have someone I think you can help. Right? On their own terms. They will do it when they're ready. Right? So we shouldn't be afraid of the rejection or anything like that. So let me give you what I call the VIPS process. Some people call it VIPs. I think of the referrals we get as the VIPs, right? The very important people. And that's how we remember the VIPS. So I'll go through this very slowly so you can take notes and the translators can keep up with me and we'll make sure we get it. All right? So the first is the value discussion. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, we talked about that this morning. Now remember I said it's not a value telling. We don't tell them the value we brought. We ask them about it. Tell me the value you feel you've gotten from this process. Or we covered a lot of things in this meeting. What are 1 or 2 things that stand out as the most important thing we talked about? Right? Or in a review meeting. Let's put the market aside. Let's put the economy aside. Let's talk about something we can control, which is our communication, our relationship. Anything not working, what is working, right? Once you're about a year into the relationship, then you can say anything not working. But before that, you don't have to worry about that, right? And so it'll change depending on what part of the relationship you're in. But we want them to talk. Now it can be a discussion, meaning we can say, what about this? And we talked about your children's education, and we talked about this. Did you find that helpful? Did you find that valuable? So it's a back and forth discussion, but it's not just you telling them the value, all right? It's got to come from them. Because when it comes from them, then they get in touch with that value more. It's also not a setup, right? You know the expression setup? We're not setting them up, right? We're not saying, have you found value in the work? Yeah, great. Who do you know? No, it's a discussion, right? This is something I believe you should do whether you ever ask for referrals or not. Always check in with your prospects and clients, right? How are we doing? What's the most important thing we talked about here this evening? And then I recommend that you even tell your clients that you're going to check in. So I'm going to pick on some folks a little bit here just to kind of demonstrate this a little bit. Can I pick on you, sir? You have a friendly face. You don't have to do anything. I just want to focus you on for a second, all right? So let's say that he's my new client, right? What is your name? Ravi. Okay, so Ravi, given the nature of the work that we're going to be doing together, would you agree that it's very important that we're very forthcoming with what we need to say to each other, very candid communication? Would you agree? You can nod your head, Ravi. Yes, thank you. He's wondering, why did he pick on me? I just needed a friendly face. From Sri Lanka, right? Yes, good. And so very important that we have good communication. Yes, good. So, Ravi, pretty much every time we get together, I'm going to check in with you. I'm going to say, how are we doing, right? Anything we miss? What have we learned today? I'm just going to check in and make sure everything's okay. Is that you okay with that? Is that good? So now my new client knows that every time we get together, pretty much, I'm going to say, how are we doing? What's working? Anything not working, right? And so what will happen is you condition them. They become prepared for this. And then you have a very honest, forthcoming communication, relationship, right? The I, treat the request with importance. Why do we treat the request for referrals with importance? How about because you believe in the work you do? I've already said this a couple times, haven't I? That's where this comes from, right? I believe in the work that I do. So I need to treat this with importance. So there's a couple different ways you can treat it with importance. One thing that some people like to do is to get what I call an introductions journal. An introductions journal, a referral journal. Go to a bookstore, to an office supply store, a stationery store, and you get a nice journal, just a book, right? Could be leather, could be fake leather, it doesn't matter, right? But this is where you collect your referrals. Whenever you have this conversation, whether they give you referrals without asking or you ask, you have a special place. You collect the information about your new prospect. And what does that do? That treats the request with importance. You're not just scribbling it on a notepad. You have a special place. That's one way. Another way to treat it with importance is to make sure you don't forget. People tell me they forget to ask for referrals. Really? Right? You know it's important, right? When someone tells me they forget to ask for referrals, what they're really telling me is they lack the confidence. They haven't been taught a process yet. Or whatever process they have been taught, they don't feel confident with it yet. Maybe they haven't practiced it or whatever. And so that's why they forget. In fact, here's a little barometer for you, a little way for you to determine whether fear is working for you around referrals. Let's say you're going on an appointment with a client. The client likes you. You know the client sees the value in working with you, right? And so you want to ask for referrals. And you run out of time. You just didn't have the time to ask. And a little voice inside your head goes, whoopee, I'll ask next time. If you ever feel relieved that you ran out of time, now you know fear managed that appointment for you, didn't it? Unconsciously, right? Fear is a very insidious sort of thing, right? So, let's not forget. How do we not forget? Simple strategy. Every business meeting you ever go on, any business meeting with prospects, with clients, always work from an agenda, right? You know the word agenda. Have a list of what you're going to talk about in that meeting. And the next to last item on the agenda are the words value discussion or value check-in. Don't put referrals on the agenda. Don't put introductions on the agenda, because not everyone likes to do that. And if it's a brand new relationship and you're broadcasting to them that you're going to ask for referrals later, they may feel uncomfortable, right? Because some people have had a bad experience around this. Just put value discussion. You know what that means. It means you're going to check in. You're going to make sure they see the value in the appointment, in the relationship. And if it's going well, then you may promote referrals or ask for referrals. Now, if you have an agenda for every meeting with value discussion on it, you'll never forget, will you? You will never forget. So always work from that. Now, you may not ask for referrals every time. It may be appropriate. It may not be appropriate. You may still, lack the courage, but at least you won't forget, right? Now, why do I say next to last item? Well, here's my feeling on this. If you're not accustomed to asking for referrals on a regular basis, if it's not part of your habit yet, and you don't feel 100% confident, if you ask for referrals and someone doesn't want to do it, you might feel a little funny, right? Yeah, I'm not sure I should ask. That feels a little, right? And then that's the end of the meeting. It's not a good energy to end the meeting on, right? You want to end positive. So always have another thing to go to, right? Maybe it's scheduling the next meeting. Maybe it's reviewing the action steps that came out of this meeting. You're going to do this, I'm going to do this, whatever it is, have another step to go to. And then you kind of get out of that little energy where they didn't want to do this, right? Some people do it, some people won't, doesn't matter. The worst thing that happens when you ask for referrals is some of those people will give them to you later when they're ready on their own terms. Another way you treat it with importance is to be confident in your request. A lot of people, when they ask for referrals because they don't feel confident, they're kind of apologetic. We have a term wishy-washy, right? Not strong, not confident, right? Sounds like this. You don't happen to know anyone else we can help? I mean, if you could think of someone, that'd be great. If you can't, that's okay. I think I made you feel uncomfortable. I know I made myself feel uncomfortable. Why don't we forget we had this conversation? Right? Weak, wishy-washy, not confident. Here's what I recommend you say. I'm glad you see the value in the work we're doing. And because of that, I have an important question to ask you. I have an important question to ask you. Right? I'm glad you see the value in what we're doing. Or I'm glad I have a happy client. And because of that, I have an important question I'd like to ask you. Now you're coming from a place of strength, aren't you? And confidence. Right? It's not needy. You're not saying, I'm trying to build my business. Please help me build my business. I need referrals. No. You're coming from a place of strength. You know the value. Now they're seeing the value. That's where we're coming from. We're coming from a place of service to others. When you come from a place of service to others, you're always on safe ground. Right? Treat it with importance. Permission to explore or brainstorm. Now, I know different languages, you're going to translate it to different words, but when you think of the word, first there's two parts to this step. The first part is the permission. In the U.S., sometimes we call it buy-in, getting buy-in, getting someone to buy into the discussion, right? You see, we know that not everyone likes to give referrals, especially when it comes to financial matters. True? Some people get very private. Some people have had a bad experience. So we know that not everyone likes to do this. So we can't just assume they're willing to give us referrals. That's a mistake that a lot of people make. They assume because they provided value, they can just go ahead and ask for referrals. And that's what'll feel pushy to your clients. That can hurt the relationship when you just assume. But when you soften up a little bit and you get permission to go into this conversation, they don't feel pushed. Now they still have control. You see, if you just assume, then they start to feel like they've lost control of the conversation. But if you say, I'm glad you see the value in the work we're doing. I'm glad I got a happy client. Because of that, I have an important question to ask you. I was hoping we could brainstorm a little, explore, see if we can identify a few people that you care about that should know about this important work. Can we try that for a few minutes? right? I'm not pushing ahead. I'm just giving them a chance, yes or no. Do we want to do this? Now, sometimes people ask me, Bill, well, if you give them a chance to say no, will some of them say no? Yes, some of them will say no. But that's what I want to know. I want to know, is this person willing to talk referrals, right? And are they not? Some people love to give referrals, don't they? Some people pull out their smartphone and they got everybody they know in their life is on their phone in front of them now, or their iPad or whatever, right? And some people will pull it out. Some people love to do this. Some people don't. We're just trying to find out who is this person, right? If they want to do it, great. If they don't, we back off. I'll teach you how to back off in a minute. Very simple, very easy. Right, so the first step is getting the buy-in. The second step is that brainstorm or explore. I believe the referral process should be collaborative, something we do together. We figure it out together. Big mistake that a lot of people make asking for referrals. Who do you know we can help? Who do you know we can help? Big mistake. Oh, sometimes you'll get a referral, right? Lightning strikes, sometimes you get lucky. But what we've done is we've thrown open the whole universe for them to consider. Who can we help? No. The next step in exploring and brainstorming is to suggest names or categories. Come prepared for this conversation. Remember I said this morning that if you have a referral mindset from the minute you meet someone, you start to pay attention to who else is in their life. I hope you're asking this question when you're meeting a new prospect. Who in your life is affected by the financial decisions you've made? Right? Who in your life is affected by the financial decisions you make? And that will, first of all, that helps them make better decisions, but then you also get a sense of who else is in their life. Here's another great question you can ask. Who are some people that you respect the financial decisions they've made? Right? Are there some people in your life you really respect some of the financial decisions they've made? And they'll say, oh yeah, my brother's been very smart with this, or my business partner, or my parents did a very good job planning, whatever, right? And what are you doing? You're helping to be a better advisor, but also you're learning who else is in their life, right? Because later, you might look for an opportunity to serve those people as well. And even if you don't know someone specific in their life, you can still have categories of people. Right? People who usually have their mind, their awareness open to hearing from you. People who have just moved to the area. People who are having a child or getting married or buying a business or selling a business or getting closer to retirement. Right? These are trigger events. These are things that happen in people's lives. This is nothing new. You've heard this before. Things that are happening in their life that make them a little more receptive to hearing from someone like you. Right? So we're just brainstorming. So let me give it to you all together. I'll do a couple times, give you a sense of what it might sound like. All right? So we have the value discussion. So let's say this is at a first meeting. Very first meeting. You're doing a fact finder, an evaluation, right? Information gathering, and you're teaching a little bit along the way. And you say, you know, we've talked about a lot of things here today. What are one or two of the most important things you think we've covered? Right? Or what are a couple things that you think you've learned from our conversation? And then they tell you what they've learned, what they think is important, right? And you say, so are you finding this conversation valuable, helpful? Oh yeah, good. Well, you know, I'm glad you're seeing the value in what we're doing, and you're starting to see the importance of this work. And because of that, I have an important question to ask you. I was hoping we could explore just for a few minutes to see if we can identify a few people that you think should at least be aware of the work that I do. Right? I know that you have a sister and a brother-in-law in the area. How would you feel about introducing me to them? Now, if you said that to a client or even a prospect, what's the worst thing they would say? No, not now. Or, no, my sister and brother-in-law don't listen to me. Whatever. They're not going to stop the process, right? And sometimes what I found is that we may suggest someone, a sister and brother-in-law or a business partner, a colleague, parents, whatever, and they may not want to introduce you to that person. But if you've come prepared, hey, we're just brainstorming. That's fine. Let me run another idea by you. In fact, what I'd like to do is really run a few ideas, a few categories of people we do some very important work for, just to see if it, triggers anybody in your awareness. Well, okay. Well, for instance, we met because you had just gotten married and you decided you really wanted to take responsibility for your financial future, and that's great. Gosh, who else do you know that's been married within the last year, maybe planning to get married? Maybe they'll know someone, maybe they won't, right? But it gets them thinking, doesn't it? We're narrowing their focus. We're not saying, who do you know we can help? We're narrowing their focus. And I've seen people, well, let me give you a specific example. My financial advisor, Larry Briskin, he's been pretty successful. He used to be lousy with referrals, used to be very bad with referrals, but we've been working together for 15 years. I've given every one of my books, my CDs, my videos. I'm teaching my advisor to get better at referrals, right? And so he had a client, a small business owner that he was going to visit for a review meeting, and he came prepared. So he has the review meeting with the client, and he says, so George, it looks like I have a happy client. Oh, absolutely, Larry, you do great work for me. Good. Because, I've got an important question to ask you. I was hoping we could explore, see if we can identify a few folks that you think should at least be aware of what I do. I've actually made a list of 5 business owners in the area. I think you may know them, and I think I could be a great resource for them. Can I just tell you who I was thinking? And George, well, who do you have in mind? It creates curiosity. When you let them know you've come prepared, or you've thought of a couple of people that maybe you can serve, you can be a resource for, right? They get curious. And so what George says, well, okay, who do you have in mind? So Larry gives him the list. George looking at the list, well, you're right, Larry, I do know these people, but I don't know them that well. I'm not sure I'd feel comfortable bringing this up with these people. I'm sorry. And Larry said, that's fine. We're just brainstorming. You're a small business owner. Who do you think should be aware? Once you've brought a few people, then you can say, who else? Who do you think? Oh, I know exactly who I want to introduce you to. Right? So Larry got an introduction, not to the 5 people he came prepared, but what did it do? It got the conversation started. And he got a great referral to a gentleman who became one of his biggest clients, right? Just from being prepared. So that's what if it's a brand new relationship. Let's say they've made a decision to purchase life insurance. They're going into underwriting, and they're writing a check to get it started, right? And so you say, you've made a very important decision here. You're moving forward with something that many people put off. And as you know now, they've set themselves up for problems down the road. And I'm curious, what made you decide to move forward, right? In the U.S., we have an expression, what tipped the scales for you? What made you decide to move forward? What is that? That's a value discussion. And they're going to tell you about the things you talked about and what they learned through your process that made them decide to move forward. Value discussion, right? Great. Glad you see the value, right? Well, we've got more work to do here together, but I was hoping we could talk just a little bit about, you could say brainstorm, you could say explore, you could say think about, talk about, find words that are natural for you, right? And then you're off with a referral discussion. Let's say it's a policy delivery. Very similar. We've been through a process to get to this point, have we not? We've met a few times. I've asked you a lot of questions. You've been very forthcoming with the answers. Thank you. And here are the fruits of our labor so far, right? Can you tell me the value you feel you've gotten from the process? Now we're making the value discussion about the entire process to get to that point of a policy delivery. Or a review meeting. Put the market aside, put the economy aside. Let's talk about something we can control, right? And then you come prepared with individuals or categories of people, right? It's pretty simple, isn't it? Right? Very straightforward. It's really a matter of confidence, right? It's a matter of confidence. So, I'll be hanging around a little bit afterwards. I know you like to do the photos and answer, I can answer some questions as best I can, and I'll be around tomorrow. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them. But let's talk a little bit about what happens if someone doesn't want to do this, right? Well, this is the hardest thing to teach, and there's a lot to teach around this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to I'm going to tell you where you can get a free report on this, right? I put a free report together just for you guys, and I'll tell you where you can get it. And it's called It's Okay to Hear No, right? And it's all about dealing with people, when they don't want to give referrals. And what I do want to teach you right now is just how to back out of your request. It would be irresponsible of me to teach you how to ask for referrals and not teach you how to unask, right? So to get that report, very simple, you just go to referralcoach.com/reports. referralcoach.com/reports. And one of the reports, there's 5 reports. One of them is this, how to deal with when people don't want to give us referrals. But let's just talk about how to back off. Now, some people call this the graceful exit. I call it the emergency exit because I like to have a little fun. And usually when someone doesn't want to talk referrals, fine. We back off. We don't want to make them feel pressure, do we? Right? So it's really simple, right? You say something like, look, George, that's fine. If you identify someone you think should be aware of what I do, please don't keep me a secret. Make sense? Okay, makes sense. Or, Martha, that's fine. I just wanted to be aware of the fact I'm never too busy to see if I can be a resource for other people you care about. Fair enough? Fair enough. And then you're done, right? Some people will give you referrals when you ask. Some people will do it later, when they're ready, on their own terms. Some people will never do it. But you're not going to hurt the relationship if you go about it in the right way. And that's the key, right? So they never feel out of control. You're not pushing them into doing something they don't want to do, right? You're just having a discussion, a conversation, a brainstorm. So another question came in. If someone doesn't give you referrals, when can you ask? When can you go back and ask again? That's a good question, right? So there's no hard, fast rule here. There's kind of the science to asking, and then there's a little bit of the art, just determining personalities, etc., right? So let's say you ask someone for referrals, and they don't want to do it, right? For whatever reason. They're not ready. They've had a bad experience. Can you ask them the next time? Well, it depends a little bit on how they answered. If they said, no, I don't like to do this. I've had a bad experience. Now, you can explore that a little bit. Usually, you're not going to want to ask the next time, right? They're going to be thinking, didn't you hear me the first time? All right? But if you have someone say, well, maybe not now. I know we have more work to do. Okay, right? Then the next time you get together, you might have the value discussion and maybe just promote referrals. And then the next time, then you can ask again. But whenever you ask a second time, always refer back to the first time. Let's say you're asking on a review meeting. You had asked when you got together at a policy delivery, and they didn't want to do it. Now it's a review meeting, 6 months, a year later. When we first started working together, I brought up the idea of seeing who else we could help through the work I do. And you weren't ready to have that conversation. And I understand, we were just getting to know each other. Now that we've working together a little bit, we've had another chance to get together. I had a couple ideas of people that I think I can be a good resource for. Can I run it by you? Can I see are you open to that? Right? You have to refer back to what happened before, because if you don't, they're going to think you're a robot. You didn't pay attention. Right? So always refer back. If someone gave you a referral, you can ask a second time. Well, last time we got together, you introduced me to your brother George. Thank you. I appreciate that. I've got another couple ideas I'd like to run by. Is that okay? And then maybe you skip the next time. You don't ask every time. Right? So I had it reminds me of, people who ask all the time. There's some people in this business that just say ask, always ask for referrals. No, that's what's given some people in this business a bad reputation of asking all the time. That's too aggressive for people. I had a dog, my first dog when I was 10 years old, a miniature schnauzer. His name was Happy. It should have been neurotic, right? He was like a very nervous dog. Now, the only time Happy ever got into the car was when we were going to the veterinarian. That's the only time Happy ever got in the car, going to the doctor, going to the vet. So guess what? Happy didn't like to get into the car, did he? Right? Because it meant veterinarian, meant shots, it meant uncomfortable, right? So we can't make our clients think that they're going to the vet every time we show up. right? That we're going to ask them for referrals every single time. No, space it out. In fact, let me give you a little formula right now of when to ask. This is a little formula. Now, you can break the rules. This is not a hard and fast rule, but if you follow this on a regular basis, you'll probably have some pretty good success with this. You ready? First time, first meeting, bring value, right? Teach, educate, ask good questions. I have a question for you. Asking a prospect or a client a question they don't know the answer to, is that a good question? Yes. Why? Because it gets them thinking in ways they haven't thought before. The biggest objection, the biggest obstacle that you have to making a sale is inertia. Is the client just not doing anything, right? People just continuing to put it off. So sometimes we have to disturb it a little bit. We have to get them thinking in ways they haven't thought before, right? And so asking questions they don't know the answers to, provoking some good information is an important thing to do, right? So provide value, ask good questions, right? Teach, educate, check in, value discussion. What's the most important thing we talked about here tonight? Or, you know, have you found value in this meeting? Let's talk about that, right? And then promote referrals. Great. Please, don't keep me a secret out there. That's the first meeting. Second time you get together, maybe it's a recommendations meeting, and they decide to go into underwriting. Then you could do a value discussion there, right? Provide value, go into value discussion, and then promote referrals again. Great. Glad so far so good. I'm never too busy to be a resource for other people you care about. Third time you get together, provide a little more value, do a check-in, ask for referrals, right? It won't be a surprise to them. You've already promoted referrals a couple times ahead, right? You've seen how they've reacted. When you say, don't keep me a secret, or never too busy to be a resource for other people you care about, you see how they react to that. It's kind of a barometer of their relationship with referrals. And so the third time you get together, that's the charm, right? Now, sometimes you can ask sooner. Sometimes just promoting referrals will generate the conversation. Sometimes you realize you have to wait, right? You may have a client that's not very open in their personality, very guarded kind of personality, right? They got to read the whole policy first, right? Right? And so sometimes you have to wait, but that's just a little formula around asking. So action steps, right? How are you asking for referrals? How is it working? And most importantly, what are you going to start doing differently as a result of this, me talking about the fears, me talking about the VIPS method? So I'm going to give you 1 minute. Turn to your right or turn to your left. Each person has 30 seconds to talk about what are you going to do differently as a result of what we've done so far. Now, more to come. I'm going to talk to you about turning the referral into an introduction, but talk a little bit about what you're going to do differently. Go, 1 minute. Okay, time, face forward. I hope you're getting some things that you can act on, right? That's what's most important. Now, some of you are wondering, what is this guy doing up here with this thing? This is obviously an iPhone. You know what that is. This is called an iRig. It's a microphone that plugs into the iPhone. Have you noticed when you create a video with an iPhone, the sound isn't always so good? You know, the picture's good, but the sound isn't good. So I got a microphone that plugs into this, and so you get really good sound. So when we're done here, I want to record you guys, right? You're going to help me a little bit. Is that okay? All right, we'll put you on YouTube. Does that sound good? MDRT on YouTube? All right, yeah, you like that idea. So we'll do that when I'm done, okay? Good. Got the clicker here somewhere. There we go. All right. So, learn about your new prospect. The more you learn about your new prospect, the better phone call, the better the initial contact's going to be, right? The more you learn about them, they become more real to you. They're just not a name on a piece of paper with a phone number or an email address. They become real. And the more you learn about them, the better conversation you can have and the better introduction you're going to get. There are two things that will help you get a better introduction. The value discussion, when your client talks about the value that they perceive in working with you, that can become part of the introduction. And then what you learn about these folks. Now, there's a lot to learn, right? But let me give you a couple things most people don't think about. Tell me something you like or admire about your friend, or respect about your friend. Now, sometimes they'll volunteer this information, won't they? You know, he has a great sense of humor. She has a great business mind. Great family, you know, people are very devoted in their religion, their faith, whatever, what they like or admire, what they respect. And then you can take that and sometimes use it in your opening conversation. So let me give you a specific example. I got a referral from a guy named Ray Vendetti, referred me to Milton Brock. And I said, Ray, what do you like or admire about Milton? This is what Ray said to me. Bill, Milton has more integrity than anybody I've ever met in my entire life. He is truly a great man of integrity. All right, so I'm writing that down. That's good, right? So I call Milton Brock on the phone. I get his voicemail. To leave a message or not leave a message? That's the question. I will usually leave a message if it's from a referral, right? Because sometimes out of respect for the referral source, our client, they'll return our call, just out of respect to their friend, right? So my message went a little something like this. Milton, this is Bill Cates. Ray Vendetti said we should talk. I have to tell you, you got a real admirer in Ray. He said some great things about you. Tell you what, when we talk, I'll tell you exactly what he said. You with me? Think I got some curiosity going here, right? He calls me back. He gets my voicemail. Bill, this is Milton Brock. You can't believe a thing Ray Vendetti says. I'm in all week. Give me a call. So now I know we're having fun, right? Good. Have fun with referrals. If you're not having fun, it means you're not doing it enough, all right? So I finally get him on the phone. I said, Milton, I can't believe a thing Ray Vendetti says. Nothing. Milton, Ray says you have more integrity than anybody he's ever met in his entire life. Oh. Well, I guess you can believe a few things, he says. Right? Have fun. Am I off to a better start with this guy because of it? Yeah. Here's another great thing. What's going on in their life? His life, her life, their life. What's going on in their life that's important to them right now? Now, when you ask this question, what are you going to hear? You're going to hear things like, well, they just had a child, or their children are getting ready for university, you know, they're thinking about retirement, they just sold a business, life events, whatever's important. They're very passionate about the theater, they're very passionate about the opera, they're very passionate about community service, right? Whatever's going on, you'll find out what's going on, right? Now, here's an important question for you. Does money intersect every aspect of our life? Yeah? Does money intersect every part of our life? The answer is yes, it does, right? In some way or another, money intersects every part of our life. So, whatever's important to them, whatever's going on in their life that's important, that they're passionate about, that could be the reason why they should meet with you. Does that make sense? Right? So, if someone's going to meet with you, they have to see the value, the reason. Sometimes their friend just saying, hey, meet with her, meet with him. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes that's not enough. We have to have a conversation on the phone that creates some value so they'll be willing to meet with us, right? And whatever's going on in their life that's important to them, if somehow we can impact that, if we can help them with that through the work we do, now we have a reason for them to meet with us, right? So learn as much as you can about your new prospects. And then secure that strong introduction, right? Very important. So let's talk about how to do that. Just like the brainstorming for referrals, I believe that getting the introduction should be a collaborative process, something we do together, right? So you can introduce the idea of an introduction by saying something, let's talk a little bit about how you introduced me to the other members of your family. Let's see what that looks like. Or, you know, my guess is your colleague George would probably like to hear from you before he hears from me. Do you think that's true? Oh, yeah. People like to protect their relationships, don't they? Right? They like to let them know that they've given their name out to you. And so that person it's good for them, it's good for us, right? Now, let me give you my overarching philosophy around creating an introduction. At least in the United States, and it's probably true in just about every country, when the government agency who's responsible for approving medication is looking at a medication, they're looking usually for two things. Is that medication safe? And is it effective, right? Is it safe, not going to do no harm, and will it help what it's supposed to help, right? Well, that's what we want our introductions to be. Safe, people feel comfortable, and effective. We get their interest up a little bit, so they'll reply to our emails, so they'll reply to our voicemail, right? It's rare that we actually reach them on the first phone call, so we've got to get them receptive to this. Safe and effective. So, in person is best if it fits the situation. If the case size that you're working matches that, if they know each other very well and they occasionally meet for breakfast or lunch or dinner, whatever, that's the strongest kind of introduction. Now, usually you're not talking business, right? You're just getting a social interaction and getting to know them a little bit. And what happens when you do that is when you have your business meeting, the next time you get together, trust is at a higher level, isn't it? Because you've already met. You've already gotten to know each other a little bit. They feel comfortable with you. And so the conversation gets off to a much better start. So in person is great. Obviously, email is very efficient. And some people these days are even introducing through text. What you might want to do is prepare a piece of paper that has a possible email or text introduction written on it. So you don't have to, your client doesn't have to think what they're going to say. You can help them a little bit, right? Here's something I prepared. Here's a short, easy way to introduce me, right? You can change it any way you want, but this will kind of get the conversation. So you could have it on a piece of paper, or you can email it to them later, and so now they know what to say. And sometimes, some of your clients know exactly what they need to say to their family members and to their colleagues at work, right? They know exactly what's going to pique that person's interest. And sometimes they're not sure what to say. I'm not sure what I should say to him. And when they're not sure what to say, then there's that expression, less is more, right? One of the most successful financial professionals I know is a gentleman by the name of Al Fox. Al Fox does a lot of investment and a lot of insurance. Last year, Al brought in a little more than $68 million of investable assets, right? All through referrals. And here's how he gets introduced. This is what he says to his clients. When you call your friend, when you call your colleague, can you say this? I've been working with Al Fox. He's done some great work for me. He's very trustworthy. I think taking his call will be worth 5 minutes of your time. Can you say that? Oh, I can say that. And that's how he gets introduced. It's as simple as that, right? Very simple, short. But now the person is expecting your call, is expecting your email. Most of my introductions come through email, right? Now, if you're going to get introduced through email, obviously make sure they CC you on it so you see the email go through. Don't assume that they know to do this. Some people will introduce you with an email, but you don't even know it's happened, right? Because you haven't been CC'd on it. So make sure you remind them to CC you. All right, so the email introduction comes through. Most of you have probably experienced this already. What I do from that is I then send an email to the new prospect and I say, you know, I see that George has said some nice things about me. I always appreciate that. I would like to present myself as an additional resource for you. Can we set up a brief call to get our conversation started? I would like to position myself as an additional resource for you. Can we set up a brief call or a quick call or a 10-minute call? Any of those words is fine. To get the conversation started. Do not try to go from an email to an in-person meeting. It's usually too much for people, unless the relationship is really strong and you know they have some interest. Otherwise, one step at a time, right? Colleen yesterday talked about stalking. It feels like stalking, too fast, too far, too fast, right? Now, if someone wants to call their friend, that's fine. When I have a client that wants to call their friend or call their colleague on my behalf, I like to promote the possibility of a voicemail message. Because what I don't want is this, you know, back and forth to happen and they never reach their friend, right? We all know what that's like, right? So I'll say to them, you know, I know you want to talk to George first. That's great. You're probably going to get his voicemail. Could you just leave a message and let him know that he'll be hearing from me and why? Yeah, okay, I can do that. So I encourage them just to leave a voicemail so now I don't have to wait weeks and weeks for them to finally talk, right, and make it happen. Here's an important thing that almost never gets talked about. What do you think you need to say to George to get him willing to take my call, right? And how do you think he'll react to this introduction? Talk through this a little bit. What happens is your client feels more confident, and it's more likely to happen, right? Because you've talked about it. Don't assume they know how to introduce you. Talk about it a little bit. And always agree on a time frame. Have you ever had a client say, oh yeah, I'm going to tell some people about you. I'm going to tell my friend George, or I'm going to tell my friend Mary, right? And you never know if it ever happened. They never got to you, back to you on it, right? Create a time frame, right? Today's Wednesday. When do you think you'll have a chance to talk to your brother George? Well, I'm going to see him for lunch on Saturday. Great. So I'll call you on Monday, see how the conversation went. Good. So now we've agreed on a time frame, right? Very important that you agree on the time frame. Now, if I know my client is talking to their brother the next day on Saturday, on Friday they get an email from me that says, thank you. Oop, was that? I just lost the slides. So they're going to get an email from me, thank you, that says, thanks for the opportunity to see if I can be a friend, be a service to your friend George. I'll call you Monday as we agreed. A reminder in the form of a thank you. So we've talked about the introduction, what's going to be said. We've created a time frame around when it's going to happen, and then a little reminder in the form of a thank you. Fewer of these will fall through the cracks. Now, sometimes clients don't do what they say they're going to do. That happens, right? But if we have a good way to stay in touch with our clients, right, that client service plan that I talked about this morning, it's not lost forever. Next time you get together, right, you're not going to forget forever. So this is what it takes to create that introduction. It's so important these days. There used to be a time in this business. Some of you have been at this long enough. Remember these days. You could walk away with names and phone numbers on a piece of paper, call these people, actually reach them on the phone, set appointments, and do business. But those days have changed. It's very difficult to reach people. So now we've got this next step where we've got to get that person involved. But let me share with you a study that was done by one of my clients. The power of the introduction, not introduction. Right? They did a study, and they had a lot of referral prospects coming in. Some, about half, they were introduced to. That client got involved and created an introduction. The other half, the advisor, the agent, just called the prospect. Right? The closing ratio was 3 times that of the people that were introduced. Right? Than the people who were just being called. So you know what I'm talking about. Get introduced, all right? So another question that came up. What do I do if my client doesn't want to help me, doesn't want to get me connected to the new prospect, right? Well, I'll tell you one of the best things you can do is go to Sam Richter's session, the next session, because Sam is a master at teaching you how to learn about your new prospects from the internet, from doing searches. And so you may not get that warm introduction, but when you do call that prospect, you may know a little more about them, and you can say a little something. I understand that you went to university here, or I understand this or that. And then it's a warmer call, maybe not a pure introduction, but at least a researched call, and you can sometimes say something good that will stimulate their interest in hearing from you, all right? So how you're turning referrals into introductions, what are you going to do differently? Now I want to keep moving a little bit, so I'm not going to have you break up, but I'm hoping you're finding some value. This is a very high content session. This is, for those of you who've never been to MDRT, this is a workshop, right? It's a big workshop. Now you've seen the main platform presenters, a lot of fun, a lot of humor, a lot of education, but not as in-depth as we've been able to go here. So we're here, we've had 90 minutes to go into much more depth than we can usually do and from the main platform. So hoping you're finding this helpful. And the final thing I want to talk to you about how you receive the referrals you get. I call it creating referral trust. People need to trust your process. If they trust your process of how you contact their friends, their colleagues, their family members, then they're more likely to participate and give you more referrals, right? But if they don't trust the process, if it's uncertain to them, then they won't do it. One of the best things you can do to get referrals without even asking is just to teach your clients what it would look like if they did introduce you to someone, how you would follow up, so they feel good about it, right? It feels safe to them, and it's effective for you. So the T is to treat the prospect like royalty. This new prospect that you're being referred or introduced to, right? White glove treatment, royal treatment, right? Because even if they don't do business with you, they're still going to be talking to their friend, aren't they? And you got to make sure that their friend hears good things about you, even if they decide not to move forward. You know, I decided not to move forward, but she was great. You know, she really taught me a lot, but I don't know, I'm going to think about it a little bit. They still hear good things, right? Respond immediately. Whenever you've been introduced, whenever it's time for you to make contact, whatever that looks like, do not wait. Because if you wait, you're burning that referral bridge between you and that referral source, aren't you? Respond quickly. The people who respond the fastest are the ones who are going to capture that energy and the enthusiasm of that introduction. So do not sit on these things. Update the referral source. Keep the referral source in the loop. Let them know what's happening. Send them an email. You know, I talked to your friend George. We set up a meeting for next week. Just want to let you know. Now, sometimes you get introduced, you get connected, and you're having trouble reaching these people. True? Yeah. So let your referral source know that. And don't wait too long. Leave a voicemail message. Wait a week. You don't hear anything. Send out an email. Wait a week. If you don't hear anything, get back to the referral source. Get back to the client. You know, I left a couple messages for your sister. I haven't heard back. What do you recommend we do next? What do you recommend we do next? Right? It's a collaborative process. Together, we're figuring out how to make that connection. Now, they may say, look, if she's interested, she'll call you. Don't push her. Okay? Or they may say, you know, she was on vacation. I forgot to tell you. Maybe try again. Okay? Or they may say, oh, I'm surprised. I know she was interested in hearing from you. Let me check with you and see with her and see what's going on. Right? Sometimes they will reach out and help you make sure the connection happens. So if you're having trouble reaching that new prospect, don't wait. Go back to the client. Go back to that center of influence and let them know you're having a little trouble making contact, and sometimes they will help you. Obviously, you want to say thank you for referrals. I would say minimum behavior is a handwritten note. But what a lot of people like to do is send a little something of value. Not a lot. It's not about the money. Could be a gift card to the movies, a gift card to a Starbucks or something like that. I like things that are flat and easy to mail. Obviously, it's got to fit within the compliance of your company. Make sure it's, you know, compliant. I understand that. But something a little, you know, little something like that, it's just a gesture of saying thank you. It's not about the money. But we're rewarding the behavior of giving referrals. We do not wait for the new prospect to become a client. We just reward the giving, right? Just the giving. Now, let me give you the magic, right? This is what many people never think about. Get the new client to thank the old client. So it goes like this. Client A gives your referral to prospect B. You thank client A in some simple way, handwritten note, small gift, something, right? Now, prospect B becomes client B. How does this client A feel about giving you that referral when their friend or colleague goes back to them and says thank you to the referral to that financial professional? Do you become more referable? Yeah, it validates the giving of the referral. So how do you make that happen? Right? How do you get the new client to thank the old client? Couple ways. Can I pick on you? And you know, I've already forgotten your first name. Edwin. How did I forget that? You helped me with my phone and everything. So Edwin, just make this up. When are you going to see George next? In a couple of days? Will you thank him for both of us? He needs to know he did a good thing introducing us. Could you do that? So it could be as simple as that, right? Just suggesting to your new client that they thank their friend, that they thank their family member. Could be that, right? Here's what some people will do. You know, Edwin, I have an idea. George plays golf, doesn't he? Yeah. I've got a box of golf balls here. Could you give that to him as our gift to say thank you for introducing us to each other? Now we have happy new client giving a small gift to their friend, family member, colleague. Makes you more referable, doesn't it? They love that process. Here's the best way, if it fits the situation. Edwin, I have an idea. I was going to take George to lunch to say thank you for the introduction to you. I have a better idea. Let's both take him to lunch. I mean, I'll pay for the lunch, but the thank you comes from both of us. You open to something like that? Now what do we have? Happy new client taking happy old client out to lunch. Who are they talking about at lunch? You and the good work, and they're validating each other's decision to work with you, right? Who else are they talking about lunch sometimes? Other people, right? Other friends, colleagues at work, right? Now you get what I call double source referrals, right? Someone they work with is hearing from two people, not just one people. I just got a double source referral yesterday, right? From Mike Hoffman and Sam Richter, who's doing another workshop. Both referred me to someone, and they both sent an email to that person for me on my behalf. So that carries a little more weight, doesn't it? So you get those double source referrals, right? So this is how you receive the referrals you get, so people feel good about referring you, and you know what'll happen? They'll refer you again because they feel good about the process. You are one referral away from your biggest client that you've ever gotten, right? So I want to kind of conclude with a little story, and then you can help me have a little fun with the video camera. Before I was in this business, I was in the book publishing business. And I got in rather naively. I thought that all I would have to do is publish good books and send catalogs to the stores and you know, mail things to the stores, and the stores would order books, and I'd, you know, get rich and live happily ever after. And it wasn't working very well. I wasn't selling books. And so I hired a consultant. And never forget this. This guy named Gary came to me. He said, Bill, have you ever tried selling these books? I said, Gary, of course. I've got this brochure. I have this catalog. I mail it out all the time. No, I don't mean that. I mean going face to face and selling the books. No, I haven't tried that. Well, I recommend you do that. So I loaded up my car with my samples of books, and I started cold calling in person on stores. And I cold called bookstores, I cold called gift shops, I cold called kitchen stores and gourmet stores because I had a cookbook in my line. And I had an incredible ability. Some of you maybe share this ability. I could pull up to a store, and without even getting out of the car, just through the vibes in the air, you know where I'm going with this, don't you, Edwin? I could tell whether they were going to buy from me or not. Sometimes I would pull away without even getting out of my car. Pitiful, right? I'll never forget. I was in front of the store in a place called Bethany Beach, Delaware. The store was called Kitchen Cargo. I'll never forget. And I'm sitting behind the wheel of my car. It's 10 o'clock, and I'm thinking, store just opened, manager's busy, better wait. 10:20, customers go into the store. Now they're really busy. Better wait. Can you relate to this? Right? Sitting in front of your phone staring at it. Better get my pencils sharpened. Better have my coffee hot. Better get my file folders in order. Right? All the procrastination that goes on. Now it's 11 o'clock. I'm still in my car. What's that rumbling sound? Well, who can sell on an empty stomach? Let's get an early lunch. Right? So now it's 11:30. I'm still stuck in fear. I'm watching my business fail before my eyes. And you know what happened? One of the best things that can happen to any of us. You just get fed up. You have to do something differently, right? And sometimes the best changes we make is when the pain gets high enough, right? Sometimes we won't change until the pain gets high enough, right? And so I walked out and I brought my books into the store, and I sold 6 copies of a cookbook called Hooked on Seafood. Very clever title, Hooked on Seafood. Get it right? All right, 6 copies. Not a very large sale, but it gave me a little bit of confidence. And Kitchen Cargo placed small orders of Hooked on Seafood for years. It was great. Well, let's fast forward about 4 or 5 months. I get a call from an executive with a canned tuna manufacturing company. It seemed he had been vacationing in Bethany Beach, Delaware. He walked into the store and he got an idea. What can I give away in grocery stores to help me sell more canned tuna? Mr. Cates, I'd like to know what it would take to purchase a large quantity of your little book, Hook on Seafood, to help me sell more canned tuna in stores. I don't know, let's talk about it. And we negotiated, and finally, Bumblebee Tuna ordered 400,000 copies of that little book, Hooked on Seafood. And that sale changed my life. First of all, I was a sales rep, and I got a very nice commission. Second of all, I was the company owner, and I got all the rest. And I used that money to build my business and eventually sold the business to get into this crazy business. So I tell you this story, thank you, I tell you this story because the next time you're in front of a great client who loves you, who sees the value in the work that you do, and you don't ask for referrals, I want you to remember, there goes 400,000 cookbooks, right? There goes the sale to the biggest client I will ever have, but it's not going to happen because I've chosen to give in to my fear, right? You have two voices talking to you at any one time. You have your courage, your intellect, your awareness, and you have your fear. Always trust your intellect, always trust your courage, but never trust your fear. It will always betray you when it comes to business. I hope you found value in what we're doing here today. I'll be hanging around a little bit for some questions, and I want to capture the end of this program. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.